Thank you so much, everyone who is joining my today's session at Litmus Lives. And it's my second time presenting, and I hope you started your day well, whether it's a morning or evening for you. Why? Because we are going to start an interesting journey about Churn journey, Churn subscription. So before I will speak about the topic and challenges for B2C and B2B, let's get to know each other. My name is Anna Levitin, and I lead CRM and lifecycle marketing at Doorloop. Doorloop is a property management software that helps landlords and property managers to organize and grow their properties. And I know that we have quite a diverse audience joining Litmus Live. We have thousands of marketers, developers, designers. So few words about who this session for. I know also that we have sales and data people. So please text in chat if you think it's your responsibility or responsibility of your team to reduce customer churn, and or that it lies again under your team. So meanwhile, I'm waiting. You can write it here or there in the chat. And I actually have bad and good news for you. So the bad news that we all responsible for customer churn, each and every of us. But the good news is that we can collaborate together, reduce the churn, which means that it will increase the revenue, and then we can use this revenue and get extra budget for new initiatives. So come closer. Here's the deal. You help us marketers to reduce the churn, and we will help you to expand and get more budget. Sounds good? So let's start. Today, we're gonna talk about what is churn, and I'm sure that everyone knows, just to remind you, what metrics to track, because remember, we usually know when our customer is unsatisfied. We know when, let's compare it to the friend. We know when our friend is unhappy, but how we can measure how unhappy they are, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about loyalty programs for B2C and B2B. And of course, we will finish with AI because everyone is talking about that. So just as a reminder, what is customer churn? So basically, it's a number of people who stopped being your customers, right? With a certain period of time. Usually it's a month, quarter, or year. So why churn is important? Because churn goes hand in hand with retention. And for loyal users, retention is predictable. So we can rely on this revenue. And churn makes our ARR, our revenue is less predictable and lower in general. So here is another example, just how we can calculate churn, and I'm sure, again, everyone is aware of this. So lost customers, we divide to customers at the beginning of the month and multiply to 100. And as an example, let's see this one. So for example, we lost 10 customers during a month or any other period of time. But in the beginning, we had 250 of them. Multiply by 100, so we can see that our churn rate is 4% for monthly percent. So now you can ask me a legit question, right? I know what is churn, I know how to calculate it, but when actually churn starts? And you know what? I have a very exact answer for you. Mm-hmm. Just a second. You will see it on the screen. Exactly. Okay, let's go back for a second. Churn starts now. Really, because at the moment, user either sign up for your tool or purchased your product or service. This is why onboarding is extremely important. I'm not going to talk a lot about onboarding because it's not the topic of this specific session. However, I'm going to say something super controversial. Don't try to over-personalize your onboarding from the beginning. Why? Because it's confusing. Personalization is great when you have a lot of data on a user. And I'm not only talking about their first-party data, zero-party data. It's also how they interact with the tool, their activity on the platform. But when you only have an onboarding data that probably some of them just feel like with the random choices, you can't really rely on this information and this data. So talking about data and metrics, I want to share with you some three main groups of metrics that help me in the different companies that I work for to measure churn. But remember, of course, there is no one size fits all. So you have to adjust it per your organization. So three main segments, three main groups. It's frequency, recency, and depth. So when I talk about frequency, basically it measures how often user interact with your product or service with a certain given period of time. For example, in a social media app, how many posts they uploaded during 1 month or during a week. Recency measures the amount of time since the user last interacted with your product. And for e-commerce, it's very clear when was the last purchase. So how many days there was since the last login of the users. And depth. This is something very interesting, and I will tell you a few examples from company I work for, Doorloop. So depth measures the level of engagement, of interaction during a certain period of time. If we talk more about B2C related products, for example, a gaming app, right? We can see how many levels user achieved, the duration of the session. For more like B2B related and more subscription related, we at Doorloop look at the product adoption. So for us, we have a certain milestones that we want our customers to reach. Majority of our customers, they're landlords or property management companies, individuals. So we measure depth based on software adoption. We have, again, 3-4 main milestones, which we encourage user by dedicated onboarding, by in-app messages to achieve in a certain time. So we talked about 3 main blocks. So in order to understand the reason why your user churn, you need to analyze the current situation. I mean, unless you have a churn prediction crystal ball or something like that. So I will be sharing with you the metrics that we are tracking. And don't be scared, it's going to be a lot, but maybe this is something you can just screen grab and talk and take for your needs. So once you measure this, you actually can not only analyze the current churn, but also predict and build a model that will help you to predict the churn, right? So when I'm talking about the model, it should look something like that, right? See these beautiful spreadsheets? Simple. Not really, right? Because when you have big data team, when you have time to analyze everything, when your platforms, tools you use perfectly connected and talk to each other and synced, there is no problem, right, to analyze anything. But I guess the majority of the audience, we're a one-man band, and oftentimes we don't have enough manpower, we don't have enough tools to analyze our churn. So usually it looks something like this, like a crazy, a crazy board where we try to understand why actually users churning. So the good news is that it's always nice to have a proper software, but if you don't have it, you can start small. It's going to be a challenge, but I can share with you and how we did it like a few years ago when we didn't have like a proper big team to analyze our data. So it will be mixed between B2C and B2B. So let's start. First of all, if you look on your right hand down, segment your customer. So I'm always recommend to understand the demographics, location, size, industry. If we're talking about B2B especially, right, like a job title, contract type, the size of the company, the goals, why they actually would like to use your service or your product. The next step on the left side is satisfaction. And as I mentioned previously, right, we know when our friends, when our relatives are not happy, but how we can understand when a customer not happy, because why it's important, because unhappy customer will eventually churn. So we try to build a segment and analyze which segment of or any of them feels more unhappier than other. So there are several KPIs that help us to measure the customer satisfaction, customer satisfaction score, NPS, monthly active users. When we speak about subscriptions, it's usually license utilization or usage ratio. So, for example, if the company purchased like 20 licenses, but they only use 5 of them. So this is something to consider when you analyze. And again, it would be great to have a proper dashboard on this. But as a starter, you can ask your AEs or SDR representative to reach out to this kind of customers. And what is important, and I will say it a few times more during this presentation, is not only measure this, but actually use these metrics when you build a communication with user. So the next type is activity. So when I'm saying about activity, I'm talking about the platform adoption, what features they use, what upsells they might be interested in. So analyze every single step that users spend on your platform. Engagement. Usually when we talk about engagement, it's either like soft metrics with email or engagement on the website, but it's very important to measure like a negative engagement, for example, complaints, open tickets for support, What we've done in a previous company I worked for, Powtoon, we actually automated our support system connected to our CRM and to Messenger. So whenever there is a customer who open, I don't know, for example, third support ticket in the last 2 weeks, the CSM assigned to this customer, they got a notification just to, to reach out, to have extra attention to this specific customer. We also measured engagement into webinars. If user attended a webinar, onboarding webinar, and later the webinar dedicated to specific feature and product updates, and of course how they active in the community. I know that a lot of SaaS platforms, SaaS products, they have certain academies or schools that a user can be enrolled in. And it usually takes a few weeks or few months to continue. So this is also an important thing to measure. The next one is organization. So you have to know your customer. And when we're talking about their organization, it's not only about financial part of this or product, it's also if there are any management changes. Because when a company goes through the significant changes, usually the C-level changes, so it might also affect the MarTech stack that company has been using. And talking about MarTech stack, actually technologies. So it's always nice to know what are other solutions that this company uses and how we utilize it. And maybe there is a tool or software they use now that planning to release similar ads on or similar to your solution or some extra features. So it's actually happens once at my previous position that we didn't really utilize one of the platforms that we use, and we realized that we had more or less the same capabilities with our CRM system. So we had to sunset one of the tools. But why it's happened? Because we didn't really, we weren't really involved into using, we didn't really adopt this platform from the very, very beginning. So once we get all this information from user, right? Engagement, satisfaction, their segmentation, what we actually can give users. And that's bring me to the topic of loyalty and retention. So I'm going to say a few words about what loyalty means. So loyalty, it's recurring relationship versus one-time supporters. So you can see that in a short-term relationship, in the how I call it, one-time supporters, it's all about the discount, the special offer, something that you can, as a customer, get right now and use right now, right? When we talk about the long-term programs, long-term relationships, it's more about building it and based on personalization and give a special customer, individual, customized value per each user. And it's important to say that long-term relationship, they can't be without a good quality product. So in other words, if company sells low quality product, it will be very challenging to build long-term relationships. So majority of them will be just another transactional operations. So towards to the end of our presentation, few words about AI, as always. So first of all, there are tons of churn prediction tools itself, proactive outreach, and like you can segment those users who are more likely to churn, sentiment analysis. But as I mentioned, oftentimes we don't have budget or we don't have a team to manage these tools. If we don't have a specific tool to measure our churn, I always talk about AI as a tool that like a tool set that can help you to save your time, increase the quality, and save cost. So what I'm saying is that, and I will give you example from our experience at Doorloop. You can start from like a customer service. So I like to use AI as a co-pilot for support team, for customer service. So when it's not entirely, you communicate only in a chatbot with AI solution, but it helps you to build a certain scenario, and they support a real agent. So, for example, we have a chatbot called Gary, and Gary is very nice, and he helps our users to answer the majority of these questions. So, we lately measured how many chats Gary solved, and it showed us 47%. So imagine that like almost 50% of all the chats being opened with our support chatbot were solved by AI solution. So in this case, you understand that team can spend more time on other new initiatives. And of course, it's important to remember that AI, like any other platform, any other solution, it needs time to adopt. And if C-level, if management doesn't prioritize this adoption process, it will never be fully integrated into the team capacity. So now few takeaways from this session. So remember, if we don't have any tool to measure and if we don't have a massive data team, we like to track 3 different metrics: frequency, recency, and depth. Number 2, customer happiness is actually measurable, and there are certain metrics that you can track. 3, churn starts with onboarding. So if you don't want to have unhappy customer that will churn, please make sure they onboarded properly. And the last one, choose long-term loyalty goals over the short term. And of course, have a high-quality product or service. So thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure to present, and I hope I will see you next year at Litmus Live, and I will be more than happy to connect with you. Thank you.